Today we're here for an absolute treat. My interviewee is Diane Gilman, the queen of jeans, the fashion designer, podcast host, international best-selling author, and she's here today to tell us a little bit more about her authorship journey and maybe something more exciting than that.
Could be.
Diane, what a treat to have you here in London.
Thank you. You made me a best-selling author, so this is great.
This is not your first rendezvous at writing a book. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, in 2013, my customers on tele-retail, QVC, International, so UK, I was on for years, America, Home Shopping Network, Australia, France, Germany. Am I missing one? Yeah. Canada, named me the Queen of Jeans because I invented a jean for middle-aged women based on my measurements as I became middle-aged. My company had always done well. I introduced washable silk to America in 1994, but it went stratospheric. We went to $100 million a year at retail. And the CEO of the network, Home Shopping Network in America, turned me on to Penguin Books. They went ahead and the authorship was taken to a level that I never thought would happen. They hosted a 2-hour event for me on live television, flew in 100 of my best customers, and we sold 35,000 books in 120 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. It was about my life. It was about how many barriers I had to break down. I've had sort of this impossible life of climbing Mount Everest 100 times. The second book was also autobiographical, and that is what my podcast is named after, Too Young to Be Old, because it's all about what's in your head. I'm about to have my 79th birthday in a couple of weeks, so pretty exciting. And that was also about my journey with breast cancer, just when I thought there would be no more barriers. And I was going to get this kind of peaceful sail into agedness. I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer at the age of 72, Christmas Eve of 2017. And my husband had passed away from cancer about 17 years before, and I was terrified. That was my number one fear in life, chemotherapy and cancer treatment. And I thought, whoa, how unfair. And why do I have to go through this? And I ended up thinking it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I totally readjusted my life. I became a happier person, a more grateful person, and more empathetic, more communicative, and wanting to serve a greater purpose. Although I loved creating my jeans because millions, I think it's up to 25 million now, of middle-aged women felt better about themselves, being reconnected to their youth through the one thing they wore on their first date, their first family vacation, after their first child was born. I wanted a bigger purpose. And I think that cancer and coming out of it showed me how grateful we should all be for every moment of our lives, and how sacred life is. So I sort of live under this umbrella of gratitude, and I don't allow myself, and I didn't during the disease treatment either, to ever feel sorry for myself, to ever shed a tear. And I wound up, even though I am not a mother, I wound up having this hugely maternal instinct about taking care of everybody in the treatment room. Because most of the women were sitting there heads in hands, weeping. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to see the chemo nurses. I like them all. We're going to get to talk about, Dancing with the Stars this week. So that was amazing to me. I always had thought of myself as a sort of negative person. I was always terrified of going on TV, every single show, and failing, because fail was not an option to me. But actually, that wasn't me at all. It was like I had this really hard, crusty exterior, and cancer doesn't allow that. Cancer took that away. And what came through was a shiny, new me, which is also why I named my business, when I started my podcast, My Shining Future.
Diane, that's incredible. And I know you have quite a story before this journey, not only your success in fashion, but your entire life journey that I got to know you behind the scenes. And this has been one of the most rewarding experiences in my
so
career,
kind of you.
to get to know you behind the brand. Tell us a little bit more about your background.
I'm first generation American. My parents came over from Ukraine and Poland. And I think somewhere in the heavens, we were just a seriously mismatched family. So my mother and my father had a plan for me. And it was a plan that was not going to work. I was going to wind up being a 700-pound recluse living in a basement somewhere on the internet 24 hours a day. They did not want me to work. And from a very young age, maybe 3 years old, as soon as I could pick up a crayon, I drew a dress. Fascinated, obsessed, in love with fashion. And there was barely even fashion designer as a title at that point. It was all couture. And apart from Coco Chanel, no female fashion designers at all. But somehow I had that in my head. I was a girl that knew my destiny, but couldn't seem to convince anybody around me that it could happen. And I remember when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I was in a market. There weren't even supermarkets back then. I was born in 1945. So I'm in the market with my mother, and there's a big magazine stand. And magazines used to be huge at that time. And it was 17 magazine. And it was Colleen Corby, teenage model, goes to New York for the weekend. And she was standing there in a mink coat in front of a backdrop of the Empire State Building on Fifth Avenue. And I remember tugging my mother's jacket and saying, see that? That's going to be me. Only I'm not going to be a model. I'm going to be a fashion designer. And I'm going to live on Fifth Avenue. And I'm going to be by the Empire State Building, and I'm going to have a mink coat. And my mother's like, yeah, sure. No, I'm not buying the magazine for 25 cents. And do you know that I live on Fifth Avenue with a backdrop of the Empire State Building, but I don't kill little minks. But I have in the past. So here was somebody who almost, for me, had a psychic vision of where I was going in life, and it was so strong. The only thing I can liken it to is when you talk to a surfer, because I grew up in LA, and they've got to surf that wave, and they've got to get that perfect wave, and it feels so right to them. That was me. I was always sketching. My mother would not let me near the sewing machine. She would not allow me to learn how to sew. So I would wait until everyone was asleep. I would pull the Singer sewing machine that my mother used to patch up her girdles and stuff. I would pull it out. I would drag it underneath my bed, go underneath my bed, use one hand on the foot pedal, use my other hand to guide the fabric, and I taught myself how to sew. I mean, when I say that fashion was a manifest destiny for me, I'm not kidding. I had to do it. And so, pardon me, I went through high school. I was very good at French. I was good at languages. And I was 52 years old when I found out that my French teacher had facilitated a 4-year scholarship to the Sorbonne. I would have lived in Paris. It would have been amazing for my career, but my parents intercepted the acceptance letter and burnt it up. I didn't find out until I was 52 years old at my father's funeral. And my mother just mentioned it casually, like, oh yeah, we didn't want you to do that. So I was someone who was used to running into brick walls all the time. And I always say now, life is a series of walls, but there's a door in every wall. And it's up to you to find it. How much do you want to get through to the other side? And that's my life philosophy. That's one of about 100,000 stories in my life.
Diane, for other women who have a dream of perhaps becoming a fashion designer like you were, or having any dream in entrepreneurship or life, and who perhaps are facing challenges in achieving that dream, what would you want to say to that woman today?
You know, I think we need to look at the example. I'm so atypical. So I always had a good career in fashion. I introduced washable silk to America in the mid-90s. But my big stardom moment, my flash light bulb moment in fashion, when I invented a middle-aged jean for my baby boomers, of which I'm one, came at 60. Then I became a cover girl. I've been on 3 magazines this year, including your fabulous magazine, Thrive magazine, Women Thrive, at 78. So how atypical is that? So my first suggestion would be, don't put a time limit on your success. You may think, and we would all love to, including me, believe that when we're 20, we're going to be discovered and it's going to be incredible, and our whole life we're going to be famous. But it doesn't happen that way. Very often, it's like a firecracker. That firecracker goes off when you're young and it burns out. So my first piece of advice is, don't put a time limit on yourself. Let it happen naturally, because it's going to anyway. And the second thing I would say is, dare to dream. I have never had one big dream in my life that really got full support. People, when I invented the middle-aged jean, the DG2 jean, even my business partner, who was vastly overweight, he wasn't in any kind of shape, said, who wants to see fat old chicks in a pair of tight jeans? Well, about 25 million other women do. I always had to shop my ideas around. I always had to do something that I think totally unnatural for myself, which was believe in myself. I always wanted people to come up to me and say, oh, Diane, you're so smart, you're so original. I'd love to invest in your idea. But most of them looked at me like, are you kidding? So I had to do a lot on my own, and I had to teach myself to believe in myself. And if you're going to dream big. What have you got to lose?
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I love your big personality and big goals in life, and you never stop. And, you know, it just goes to show that you can do anything. You're 79 right now.
Yeah. So when I got done with breast cancer treatment, I knew that the lifestyle I was living in an airplane, doing round trips to Europe to be on QVC all over Europe, literally once a week, every week of the month, that physically it was inappropriate for me anymore. I had aged out of that kind of career building intensity. But I knew I was not a candidate for retirement. That was not going to work for me, ever. And I'm a doer, and I have this huge need to succeed. So I had to do a life review because I knew I was going to have to. You need to reinvent yourself. For any of you out there that have had cancer, breast cancer, or any kind of life-threatening disease, when you come back from it, you know you have to reinvent yourself. So I said, who would I be if I wasn't a fashion designer? Who would I be if I wasn't on tele-retail? And I thought, well, take a little life review. And the life review was, I want to be a glamorous older woman. I'm going to come back natural. I'm not going to dye my hair anymore. I want to come back authentic. I want to be a paradigm for my age group and for younger women who are terrified of aging. That's everybody. And what have I developed over the years besides fashion? Being in front of a camera. Yeah. So comfortable being in front of a camera. Telling stories. I'm a storyteller. Even when I sold my jeans, every sell was based around a story of, where I wore them, who said what about them, how they felt. So I thought, could I be a podcaster? That would be really fun. And this time, rather than working with a host on tele-retail, I could be the host. Could I do that? It was a little scary, but I was... I bowed out. I felt like I had climbed to the pinnacle of that part of my career, fashion. But it was like jumping off the Empire State Building with a bungee cord that you hadn't tested. What was I doing? I was #1 everywhere in the world for television fashion. How could I give that up? People really thought I was crazy. But you know what? If you know your personality, and I knew I needed to be stimulated, I knew I needed to be excited, I knew I needed to climb to another height. I could have done tele-retail in my sleep. It wasn't good for me. So I was retired for 4.5 weeks, and I was like, oh, I don't like this. This is awful. What's going to happen to me? And somebody got in touch with me and said, I have this podcast, I've had it for years, why don't you be my co-host? And I tried it for a while, and he allowed me to pick the guests, and I thought, I like this, but I don't want to be the co-host to a man, because the poor guy, every guest I picked, every subject I wanted to talk about was a woman's subject. So I thought, okay, do it yourself. Be out there alone. And then we started inviting guests on, and now we were just rated by FeedSpot on YouTube as #3. That's after only about 8 months of our own podcast. We're #3 for women over 50 podcasts. Yeah, so really excited about that. And started doing short reels for Instagram and loved that. And I don't think that I'm a total natural at sharing my life, but we just did a short reel where I started out with no makeup on at all. Now, in real life, I would never be out on the street with no makeup. But now you're in front of millions of women and putting on my makeup and showing how I'm hiding my dark spots and my age spots. And so I think you can tell I am so excited about my life. I am so stimulated. And then I always dreamt of being a model, which was never going to happen since I'm 5'4" and a little pudgy. And then I just got magazine cover after magazine cover this year. So I've had 3 so far. So who would be a cover girl at 78 years old? So I take it as it comes. I'm super, super happy that I understand how to define my image at this age. And nobody would ever expect that all of this would happen so late in life. So hang in there. You can't win it unless you're in it.
Diane, you make an incredible cover girl, I must say. And it's been nothing but a pleasure and honor to
Thank
work
you.
with you over the last few months and help you really share your story. What advice would you want to give to women who want to age gracefully and have an exciting third act in their lives?
So I always have seen my life as a theater production. So what is your third act? Well, if you love Broadway plays, first act is introducing all the different characters, so you understand where the drama is coming from. Second act is a meaty part of the play, all of this intersection. And the third act is a grand finale, right? The best song, the music, the dancing, the heartbreak. I would say, first of all, take it out of your mind. Society basically says to women, past the age of 50, you're useless. You see every single female star in Hollywood hit that brick wall at 50, unless they're incredibly accomplished, like Helen Mirren or Nicole Kidman. I would say reinvent yourself. This is not your youth and this is not your middle age. So many women, the only thing they know is to go back. Oh, I've got it. People will say to me all the time, oh, you're almost like you used to be. No, I'm not. I'm a completely different person, but I hope I'm the best I can be in the moment. And so many women I see again, as they age, look like they've been trekking through a desert and haven't had a drink of water in 100 years. They're so, I feel like their lives are so arid. Guess what? It's your life. It's up to you to fulfill it. So start thinking, who do I want to be? How do I want to manifest a whole new me? I'm still myself as an interior, but I've got to be somebody who takes advantage of what I've got right now. Live in the moment. You can't go back to the past, and the future's not here yet, so stop worrying about it and enjoy. That's what I think. I see so many women my age, and they feel enjoyment in life is over, that there's nothing left, and the clock is just ticking. I'm having the time of my life. I'm learning a new profession. I'm getting a lot of attention, which I really love as a Leo. and honestly, I would say the other thing is plan. Plan for your future. What do you want to accomplish? Because you still can. And then be pragmatic and set out to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Diane, what some of the main challenges have you faced as an aging woman
Ageism.
in today's youth-obsessed world?
Ageism. That's why I appreciate podcasting so much. Once you understand your audience, the way I understood, I went for a 50-plus customer when I was doing fashion, and it was extraordinary. Know your audience and have a set of goals that you can achieve. And so I think ageism is something you have to counter all the time. So maybe you don't want to go back into a corporate world. If you've left one career, I would not say, oh yeah, go back into that corporate world, because it's going to reject you. They want someone 25 that makes half the amount of money you make, and they'll teach them as they go. I was always a single practitioner entrepreneur. So being a podcaster was perfect for me. And then because people knew me from fashion, the world of beauty came over, the world of supplements came over, the world of anti-aging came to me, and I am now officially, according to YouTube and Instagram, a silver-haired influencer, and I'm fascinated. I get all these new products, anti-aging products, and try them and sell the ones that I really believe in, and so I'm a good salesperson too. And so I'm using that skill as well. So I love using my developed skills. That is what I would say. Ageism is something that you really have to break through, but you can do it.
And I love that. At the age of 77, you started your own podcast and you're doing this whole online social media when a lot of people would be shying away from doing that. So too young to be old. What does it stand for, really? And what is the core message behind your podcast?
When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was very concerned about how, after all those chemicals and operations and everything I had to go through, how was I going to continue my life? And I realized I was going to have to do a lot of it through my head. And I was going to have to never tell myself no. And I was never going to allow myself to say, oh, I'm too old, or no, I'm too fragile now. So I rearranged my life so that a lot of my success would come from my attitude and my brain. And that's my advice to everybody. You may always be, there's an old Bob Dylan song about aging and climbing that ladder of years, and may you always be too young to be old.
Oh, I love that. I think all of us need to hear this message and be reminded that it's never too late to chase your dreams. It's never too late to go after what you believe in. And Diane, you always believed in your ideas, in the pursuits that you have had in your life, in your business. So D2G Jeans by Diane Gilman become $100 million brand.
A year.
A year. What do you think contributed to the success of it?
Ageism. You had a customer that turned 50, went through the change of life, gained a ton of weight through the middle, and nobody wanted to dress her. It was insane to me. You know, when I was younger, in the 60s and 70s, I got into the world of rock and roll, and I dressed rock stars. And I would take their denim and jewel it and slash it and patch it and hand paint it. And that's how I met Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, Jefferson Airplane, Sly and the Family Stone. And I thought to myself, how dare you? I turned 55. I gained a ton of weight. I devoted 1 year. Every Saturday, I would go out and try another denim category killer store like The Gap. Sales girls, teenagers would walk up to me and say, ma'am, you're too old to be shopping in this store. Oh my God. So I realized that the fashion industry had become, at least with fast fashion, had become so youth obsessed that their attitude was just go off and die somewhere. Be quiet. Don't complain and don't want to look good because you're not going to look good and you're not meant to look sexy and good past a certain age. And I thought, this is rot. I mean, so I remember I gave up shopping for jeans after about a year. And then I thought, what an idiot you are, Diane. You've got a professional sewing room in New York. Go out and buy 3 yards of denim. Took all my measurements. I knew how to make patterns. Made the pattern for a jean much bigger in the waist than any other brand was. Skinnier in the thigh. Because if you were going to get a gene for a younger woman, which was all there was, I would have to go up so many sizes to get a waist that fit, that I could button, that the jeans would be like totally baggy and out of proportion. And a jean should be sexy. So I made the jean. And I remember the first day I wore it, I was walking down Fifth Avenue, and two guys, Con Ed guys, were in a manhole, and they were young. And one of them popped up and looked at me and said, "Hey, lady, you got it going." And I thought, oh my God, I've got something here. So I'm thinking, it became life-changing. I wore that jean, that poor jean. I wore that jean every day. Totally changed the attitude of everybody around me, too. All my young assistants started treating me like more of a contemporary, rather than, they used to say to me, I wanted to smack them, "Well, Diane, back in your day," excuse me, I'm still alive here. So I remember taking it to my business partner, and he was like, "Don't be ridiculous." And I think his attitude was, women shouldn't wear jeans past a certain age. You shouldn't even try to look sexy. Thank you. And then I remember we got a female CEO at my television network, HSN. I pitched the idea. I took it to her. And she said, I don't think you're going to be able to sell a fitted bottom on television. I said, "Look at how this waistband stretches like 9 inches. Give me a chance." So she gave me a chance. I had 1 hour. They ordered 5,000 jeans, which is nothing for tele-retail. And I got a February Sunday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay? So I'm thinking, are you kidding? I go on to the studio. I have a host who's a 5X. She will not put on the jeans. She said, "I hate jeans. I'm not wearing these jeans." And we get into it, and she's crying and saying, "I hate jeans, I hate jeans, I hate jeans." Suddenly the camera's on, and it's like, "Good morning, ladies." And we sold 5,000 pairs of those jeans in 3 minutes. We had nothing left to sell for the rest of the hour. Nothing. And I thought, okay, I've got something here. And then the sales were just meteoric. A customer that was shoved aside, ignored, put down, uncared for, suddenly had a hero. Suddenly had a hero product. Then I designed a top called the Easy Tank that hid the midriff. It was a tiered top. That started selling millions every year. I just respected my age group and my customer base. I went for a group of women, a community of women that were ignored and not taken care of. And it was incredible. It was an amazing response. And then after a couple of years, I thought, this isn't enough. So I went to QVC management and I said, "Please give me a chance in Europe. Give me a country, Britain, that speaks my language, and just give me one show. Let me just try." So we were #1 in America. We came #1 in the UK for fashion. Then we opened up QVC Paris, #1. QVC Germany, #1. QVC Italy, #1. Australia, #1. Canada, #1. So it was always about the growth. Then I had to tell my audience, I'm not going to see you for a year. I have a new job, saving my life. That wasn't easy. But I couldn't even stay away a year. They brought me back after 9 months. I literally was on a table getting radiation with a suitcase next to the table got off the table, put my coat on, grabbed my bag, and was back on TV. And I remember walking into the TV studio. It was Thanksgiving weekend. We had a huge show, and we set an all-time tele-retail record and sold 225,000 jeans in 8 hours on air. So I had built a female community. I understood their feeling about aging. It was like my feeling, like, hey, excuse me, we deserve a little respect here, and we'd like to be paid attention to. And oh, by the way, can you help us look good, because we still want to? And I've taken that philosophy now to podcasting, to give our base, our viewership, advice about how to age better and age more gracefully. So my new platform and foundation for communication is Wave. It is still fashion. We now do our second podcast every week called Fashion Thursdays with Diane. It's super fun. But we also talk to medical experts and all kinds of life coaches and everything about aging to make your life better as we live longer.
Oh, Diane, that's incredible. I love your social media presence and just catching some of your episodes. They're always so inspiring and uplifting, and you always got a little gem advice for your listeners. What legacy would you like to leave beyond?
I want two things. I want it to be my legacy. When people think of me, it puts a smile on their face. And I want them to say, that woman really cared about me.
Then you have a big heart and big hair that we absolutely love.
It has to be big hair.
How do you keep your hair so fabulous all the time?
You know, it was very scary when I always hid behind my hair, right? You know it, Ray. When you have a bad day, if your hair is good, it's okay. You'll sail through. To lose all my hair was catastrophic. I literally took towels. As a Leo, I have a million mirrors in my house. I took towels and draped all the mirrors. I couldn't see myself. I could not. And then you don't know if your hair is going to come back. Nobody guarantees that. But it did, and I take 1 million vitamins for it. I eat for my hair, like eating a lot of salmon, a lot of omega-3, a lot of rich, direct proteins. I don't need any processed food. And I covet, I know, because here I am at almost 80, still in front of a camera, naturally. I'm such a ham. And so I cultivate my beauty and my best features, like my hair, with purpose and information. And that's what I bring my viewers.
I love that. Diane, I'm going to take you back to your rock and roll days, because I want to get a little peek what it was like to live as Diane Gilman.
You know, it was, first of all, back in the mid-'60s, there were no gigantic billion-dollar concerts until Live Aid's. And oh, by the way, I was in London when Live Aid's was going on. And I'll just give you one example. My boyfriend in college was a record agent for RCA. And one night he called me up. I was in a sorority, but that was just to get out of my house. I hated being in a sorority. And he said, sneak out and meet me at the Whiskey Go-Go on the Sunset Strip. And I said, don't be silly. It's Monday night. The club is dark. He said, not for us, it's not. 20 record agents have been invited to see a new act that's auditioning for a record contract. I said, okay. I had made a jean jacket for myself. I bought like a Levi's jean jacket, and I'd hand painted it with beautiful flowers and then jeweled all the flowers and hand sewn patches on it. And Thing was incredible. So I got on my jean jacket. I literally dressed, put on a bathrobe because the house mother was not going to let this happen at 9 o'clock at night. It was curfew on a weeknight. Took the slats out of the window in the kitchen of the sorority house, jettisoned myself through, seriously, got up to the Strip, and we go into the club. The Whiskey A Go-Go, super famous club on Sunset Strip, was huge with these giant glass pillars that had go-go dancers up and down. I mean, it was just a different era. It was wild. So the club is totally dark. There's 20 agents and their girlfriends. There's a stage right here. Stage was about that high. Lights come on. A woman walks out, girl, walks out on stage with, I could relate to it, wild red hair, a feather boa, and a bottle of Southern Comfort. Nobody knew her. She opens her mouth, and it's this wall of sound. Janis Joplin. And she sings, and my boyfriend didn't like her. He said, she'll never be anything. That woman looks crazy. Anyway, afterwards, but you know, she wants to talk to all the record agents. They should want to talk to her. So she's talking to us, and she says, looks me up and down and says, hey man, your jacket's so groovy. And I said, take it. It's yours. It's yours. So that's partially how I got into music, into being a peripheral character in the burgeoning music industry. And then my friend and I, who wound up being a designer, wardrobe designer for movies, and followed Brian De Palma around. So she did Dress to Kill, the original Carrie. She was incredible. We opened up a store across the street on Fairfax Avenue, a deli called, I think it was the Fairfax Deli or something, but it was where all the stars went for a pastrami sandwich, right? It was like a big celebrity hangout. And one day, our little store called I'm a Hog for You, Baby, because we researched it, but we didn't have the internet or Google yet, but we thought this was, I'm a Hog for You, Baby was the first rock and roll song ever recorded. So I'm a Hog for You, Baby was neon yellow paint. I think it was the cheapest paint, or it was on sale for like $1 a gallon. And we drew and painted a big hog, a big pig, and it said, I'm a Hog for You, Baby. We sewed all our own clothing for the store. So we basically made a model of an A-line dress, and then whatever you wanted to put into that dress. I remember I did a polka dot dress, giant polka dots that were see-through colored cellophane. It was crazy, yeah, super crazy. And White Rose pulls up, and Sonny and Cher get out. And Sonny says, I'm dying for a pastrami sandwich. And he goes across the street. She doesn't want to eat it. She weighs like 2 pounds. She's gorgeous. And she said, I'll just go into the store. She comes in. She looks around. She never says a word. She walks out, and we think, oh, she didn't like it. It's not good enough for Cher. And she screams, Sonny, come in here. And he comes in with the chauffeur, and they literally pick up every rack and take the dresses were only $10 a dress, and takes every dress. We had to close the store for about 5 days and like stay up for 5 days sewing again to restock the store. So then I met Cher. And there were no gigantic constructs around these stars yet. So another one of my best friends toured the country and toured the world with Deep Purple, and the song Tiny Dancer, seamstress in the band, was written for her.
Then you continue to be inspiration.
I've led a life. I made a vow to myself when I was really young that I knew my parents were immigrants, and for them it was very important to lead a very structured, I am an American, I am a citizen, I am upright kind of life. But for me, I wanted experience. I wanted intensity. I wanted incredible memories. And it hasn't stopped. I mean, that is the DNA of who I am. So I am hoping and I am working to bring my baby boomer sisterhood into and as you age into 55 years old, you sort of automatically become a baby boomer, into a different attitude about aging, that you can still have and make amazing memories, that you can still start new projects in life, that there is beauty and joy and content in growing older. You're not just falling off an age cliff. And I'm very busy doing it.
What's exciting you the most at the moment about this chapter in your life?
Well, I loved writing the chapter in the book because my first two books I had ghostwriters that helped me, and I thought, could I do this myself? Authorship is such an appropriate thing to do at this age, right? It's not totally physical. You don't have to depend on being up for 18 hours a day like I did on TV. So I loved that. And now someone has just approached me who's a screenwriter and thinks that my life would be a good episodic story for like Lifetime movies, which I love. So we start writing the screenplay of my life in a couple of months. And then I hope to start my fourth book. I don't know, I just keep on going. And every time I see something that I think could work for me and stimulate me and excite me, but could also help other women in my age group, and women who are younger but terrified of growing old, and who isn't terrified of growing old because society tells you you're going out of the lush garden into the arid desert. I want to grab at it. And I constantly want to hone my craft and get better at what I do. I have a huge need to succeed. So it would take a lot. You'd have to really bludgeon me over the head to get me to stop.
Oh, Diane, we loved having you here in London for this girls' trip, to have a media day for the Women Thrive book, and also to have you part of this project, because you have definitely been one of our highlights in this whole process. You would show up with incredible energy that we loved. Make all of us laugh. And you always say that you used to be a class clown.
I was one thing I understood once I got on television was I was a performer. And I had no place to really put that energy when I was younger. So I didn't even get on TV till I was 47. And it was like, oh, maybe I could stop having personal dramas. I could just start channeling it into TV, but that didn't happen. I had TV and I still had personal dramas. But I'm now honing the art of communication. Yeah. So it's very exciting. And writing is a big part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally loved seeing your chapter come to life, and also witness the Diane show on our calls that we always joke about, that Diane would come on the calls and her headphones would not work, and she would have words with those headphones.
That's true.
But make all of us smile. And I think that's what really stands out about your personality, that everywhere you go, you just create this energy around you. And whilst here in London, we went out to Harrods yesterday. And right in the middle of us walking out of Harrods, a lady stops in front of Diane and just stands there. And Diane was like, I'm sorry, as if, I'm making you wait. And I was like, no, this lady is just really taken aback. I'm sure you encounter these moments a lot where people just run into you and they're just really surprised.
Yeah,
by
we
your
wound
energy.
up spending about 20 minutes, half an hour with her. And she said, no, I'm stopping because you're so beautiful. And I thought, oh my God, that's so lovely. But you see, younger women do not expect when they age that they're still going to have a presence, an energy, and be seen. We're told to just fade away and be silent. You're useless now. Next generation, come on up. And so for a lot of younger women who are aware, they're really flabbergasted by me. They don't expect me to be walking around. And in a way, it's really beautiful because I've always wanted to be unique. But in a way, it's a little lonely. So ladies, join me, please. I need a team. I really do. But yeah, that was a gorgeous moment. And we wound up spending so much time talking to her. And then it turned out we were talking about the chapter in the book. And she said, what's your chapter about? I said, breast cancer, and coming out of it as if I went into it with this really hard, thick shell around me. And all of that had to break away. And the new me was a shiny me, and a me that wanted to redo myself and have so much more compassion and empathy. And she started crying and said, my best friend has cancer and she's lost. So we talked about that for a while, how to make her friend feel better and feel like there was hope. And when an event like that happens, or it becomes an event, just a moment in time that, you're just shopping for cosmetics and having sushi and Harrods, and it turns into this totally heartfelt moment that you'll remember forever. The universe is speaking to you and saying, Diane, you've got a mission.
Yeah. Well, Dan, we hope to see a lot more of you in the future.
I hope so.
Continue to inspire other women with your youthfulness.
That's my path.
Inside and out. And you're such an inspiration.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have you here. It's been an honor to work with you.
It's been so fun.
We look forward to seeing you a lot more.
Great.